Hello, hello. This is Irene from Saugatalks. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in 2024. I definitely know you had fantastic holiday break. You had fabulous time with your families, with your friends, with your colleagues everywhere around the world. I follow a lot of my followers on LinkedIn and X and on YouTube. And I know the holiday spirit stays with us through January. I learned from Nicolas Babin just now that in France, it's going through end of January anyways. Enough of that nonsense talk at the beginning. So I would Saugatalks, follow me, follow Saugatalks on LinkedIn. Nicolas just named as a top voice on LinkedIn. So yeah, that's an important announcement here. With that, all right, the topic we want to cover today is about AI. Surprise, surprise, right? Not just AI in healthcare. And I speak with top experts in the industry with me here today. I'm so privileged to host Nicolas Babin. Hello, Nicolas. How are you?
Hello, Irene. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. You know why? Because you were kind enough to introduce John Belsher to me. John, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Irene. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure over here because I cannot wait to hear from you, the experts, the practitioners, the decorated industry veterans, as well as, of course, right, John, your MD. This is incredibly valuable to hear, not just from technologists on healthcare. It's about how practitioners, how those doctors, nurses, everyone in the field is actually reacting to the pace of that change, because it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. I want to hear what's ahead of us. So, Nicolas, why don't we start with the future of AI? It's already here, don't you think? And healthcare is leading the way, don't you think, or not? Please contradict me.
You stole my line, Irene. Absolutely. I was going to say it's actually the future is already here. It's about personalization of healthcare. And again, I'm not talking on behalf of John, because John is definitely the expert here. But to me, it's personalized and predictive. And that's what's going to make all the difference in terms of healthcare costs, in terms of being more having a healthcare system that's going to be better for the patient. It's going to put the patient at the center of everything. And predictive is going to be fantastic. And why is AI such a big help? Because AI can process so much data that the human brain would not be capable of processing. And the doctors, when basically they will have to make a decision, they will make a very informed decision based on the whole historical data for all patients. So even from grandparents, great grandparents, so you have genetic data, you have the patient's data since birth, and all this information will be able, you will build models, AI models that will get the right information at the right time on the right platform for the right person, meaning the physician, the MD. That's how I see
Absolutely.
the future, which is now here, of AI in healthcare.
John, is it here? Please give us some reality check over here, because we know that healthcare in the United States, at least, okay, it's quite a conservative industry, as much as practitioners there, doctors, nurses, everyone is using new technology. We want to make sure it's 100% proof, bulletproof, okay, if not 150. What do you see out there is happening right now?
Yeah, I think, Irene, we're just beginning to understand the far and wide ramifications of AI in healthcare. We are going to learn more over the coming years in terms of just how extensive and expansive it will be. I love the way Nicolas framed it. The goal really is to put the patient at the center of care, and I think this technology will help do just that, amongst many other things. We focus a lot in healthcare on accessibility, affordability, and convenience. And I think when we think about AI, we see AI playing a big role in this. I keep waiting, frankly, to hear more about the hyperbole, or, this is going nowhere, or this is a flash in the pan. I don't think so. I think it will continue to have, again, significant ramifications, not only in healthcare, but in many fields. And we can't even speak about all the ramifications today because we don't know what we don't know. But in the coming years, we will learn more. And to your point, Irene, I would say the future is here, and the future is going to go on for a while.
We're thinking about personalized treatment plans, drug discovery, patient care automation, lots of use cases popping up here and there. Okay, which one, maybe top 3 you want to point out at the beginning of 2024? We check on you at the end of the year just to see how relevant those points still are.
Well, John and I discussed a lot about, in preparing for today. And we at the beginning had said there are 5 ways saving patients. And actually, it's an article that John wrote a long time ago, which was really valuable to me. And actually thinking more about it, I think there are multiple ways. 5 is definitely the right number, but I think probably we could find even more. And there's several blocks. So what I see coming really to me is the personalized care that at least I think in the US, I had a conference in the US back in November about mesothelioma, which is the asbestos cancer. And there were a lot of patients, a lot of doctors in the room. It was in DC. And I realized that in the US, actually, the huge difference in terms of healthcare is the fact that everything is managed by insurance companies. Whereas in Europe, we might be paying a little bit more taxes. I will grant that to you guys. But at least, when a doctor makes a decision, he makes a decision for the benefit of the patient, not for the benefit of the insurance companies. I mean, there was a patient there at the event that could not have any more scans because she had gone over the limit that the insurance company had decided, and for life she could not have any more scans. And she has mesothelioma. So that to me is pretty scary. And I think what I heard, at least in terms of U.S. healthcare, is that you guys are slowly but surely at least transforming this healthcare, and thanks to people like John, who understands technology, who understands the impact that technology can have for healthcare. So to me, my predictions for AI, I mean, it's hard because I think Europe will have a different prediction than the US, because again, it's very, very, very different. I'm very familiar with the European ways of healthcare. I'm a little bit familiar. I lived 5 years in the US, and my wife is American, so I'm a little bit familiar with the US one. But I will have John discuss what he sees as the prediction. To me, at least in terms of Europe, I see today a difference in terms of diagnosis. Because, and I think we'll talk more about that later on, but just as a general subject, diagnosis and treatment, AI is definitely helping. I have a son who's a medical student. In Europe, it's very different. We have 13 years, and he's in his 9th year. And he said, Dad, it's unbelievable. For prostate cancer, now it's a robot actually operating you. For eye treatment, eye surgery, it's a robot. I just had eye surgery about 6 months ago, and it was done by a robot. For brain hemorrhage, it's also a robot operating on you. So all these things are happening, at least in Europe. I see that. I know in the US, it's the same thing in terms of using AI and robots. But I think it's not yet everywhere. And that's what we're going to see in 2024, is the fact that more hospitals and more doctors will start adopting technology and understanding how it's going to help patients.
Different buckets, if you will, diagnosis and treatment, and even preventative. I think one of the goals with healthcare, particularly in the United States and around the world, is we must get upstream on healthcare into true healthcare preventive care as opposed to sick care. And I think AI will help take us upstream, further upstream, and from a preventive standpoint. I like personalized medicine a lot, to echo Nicolas. I'm not only excited for what it will do for populations and individuals, but when I think about healthcare, and I remind my colleagues and employees and staff all the time, We're all patients and consumers at the end of the day. We all have a stake in this. We're all going to benefit from this. And when I think about personalized medicine, having had a father who died at a young age from lung cancer, I think about how amazing will that be to continue to customize treatment plans for patients who have different illnesses and likely impacting the outcome. So very excited about personalized medicine. We're going to see a lot of growth, continued growth, I should say, in that regard. A few other areas that I think a lot about in AI as it relates to healthcare is certainly image analysis, as you're both aware of. We'll continue to see major inroads in radiology in terms of X-rays, CTs, and MRIs. Not only the ability to help with errors and to catch things that a human being may overlook, but also the sheer volume of data that imaging will be able to process through imaging. That goes for pathology too. Pathologists are some of the brightest minds in healthcare. They have very difficult jobs discerning different patterns with regard to cellular architecture. And I expect, again, AI will support them, augment them, and it will allow them to do a lot more based upon the sheer volume of data that we'll process. Another area that I'm very bullish on, if you will, is remote patient monitoring. We continue to see a transition in the US from inpatient care to outpatient care. That will continue to be made possible by continued inroads and advances in the remote patient monitoring category, which includes wearables, of course. And then quickly, I'll just add from a treatment standpoint, and I'm happy to come back to any of these, we'll continue to see advances and support in the surgical suites with regard to AI and what it's doing there. And something that's very important to me, another area that I think not only can the US use more of, but the world, and that is mental health. There is a shortage of mental health services and providers in the US, and our ability to leverage AI to augment what we're doing in mental health will help significant populations of people.
Nicolas, you mentioned automation, patient care automation, okay? Could you give us some examples? Because I know they're thriving, right? We're reading these exciting articles. We're following top voices like yourself for more interesting examples that popping up every day. But what, in your opinion, okay, where automation will become kind of human-centered automation, because we don't want just dumb robots doing dumb thing, okay? We need smarter than that. How do you think it's going right now? Yeah.
Yeah, and again, as John mentioned, in terms of personalization and automation, we see it happening a lot in surgery, more and more. As I mentioned, the eye surgery, the prostate surgery, the brain surgery, because it's a little bit more precise. It allows also to a better diagnosis and a better. You can use also virtual reality for the surgeon to be able to train himself or herself on the surgery. So when he or she comes in the room, he or she knows already how to perform the surgery. But to your question, Irene, one area which, at least in terms of my son, if I can talk about him again, he said there's one area that really upsets me the most is administration and all the work that needs to be done in terms of administration. And AI can really help automating all the tasks like scheduling, billing, patient record management. And so it will allow basically healthcare professionals to spend more time on the patient care. And that automation is definitely happening these days. You can see now, you make an appointment, you don't need to talk to the secretary anymore. You just make your appointment online. You can tell all about, you can link, at least in Europe, we have what we call the shared medical file, which is shared amongst every single physicians that you see, and you can enter all the information you want to enter or you can enter, and so that helps really automate the diagnosis, automate also the treatment. Because when you come to an appointment with a cardiologist, for example, he knows everything you've done before. He can see all your blood results. He can see all the problems you might have had before. He can decide to have stress tests on you even before you walk in, and then so it puts the patient at the center, because when you come in, he has already all that information. He has maybe using AI, or even if he's not using AI today, he can just confirm everything with you and ensure that at least you get the most optimized care that he can give you. And that's what's really important. I mean, John as an MD is probably buried with with administration tasks as well. And you need to be very careful, because if there's one area where you can't mess up is beyond surgery. Obviously, it's administration, because that's where patients can sue a doctor, can sue a hospital, can sue and can take legal actions against, something that was not well documented or things like that. And so you need to back yourself up, and more. Not as much in Europe, but I know in the US, you guys need to you guys, meaning the MDs, you need to really back yourself up with data to make sure that at least you don't have any legal implication that could prevent you from doing your job if really you found that you've made a mistake or something like that. So that's where I think the AI and data and technology is going to help. But there's the very important point is the ethical element of it, and cybersecurity and all this. In Europe, we've decided to have a legal angle of it, and we're about to, as you know, I'm an ambassador for the European Commission, and so we work a lot on putting together basically a set of laws. And I know European love laws, whereas Americans love to behave differently. But for us, we've decided, in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of information that can be shared, to at least ensure that data cannot be used for wrong or misdoings from hackers or for things like that. So that there's a very important element. I think AI and technology is going to be, and is already, a fantastic tool and solution for physicians, but we need to make sure that at least we respect legal elements and privacy for the patients. And that was to me, in terms of automation, that's something that's really important.
Absolutely. John, Nicolas brought a few very critical points. Okay, so to me, I do want to hear your opinion first on workflow automation. So what is your point of view in terms of how in 2024 the workflow will be critical, and how AI is helping already so many startups out there working on it, so many larger companies developing solutions?
You bet. It's not only making, Irene, I would say, physicians more efficient, but it's frankly making them happier. We are experiencing a surge of burnout in the US. Part of it is from the exacerbation of COVID and the amount of patients that we're seeing during that period of time. But between seeing patients and handling administrative tasks, as Nicolas aptly pointed out, it's become overwhelming for many to do this day in and day out, and they're leaving for other industries, other positions, et cetera. So I would say not only more efficient, but happier. And what we talk about is ensuring, ideally, that individuals practice at the top of their license, or they're doing what they're trained to do, and they're not involved in the routine administrative tasks, which certainly impact the U.S. healthcare system today. I see the workflow automation along these lines, the streamlining, if you will, is a win-win. I think it's a win for the patient and a win for the physician. A win for the physician, as I just pointed out, because that's where they want to be. They want less administrative tasks, less rote issues. They want to be practicing and caring for people. They'll be happier. And then on the flip side of that, the patients will benefit from it, absolutely, as Nicolas pointed out, because they'll have more focused care, more critical or important interpersonal interactions with their physicians. So I really see the experience for the patients improving as a lot of this work is streamlined and offloaded, if you will, into AI.
I'm coming from the adoption angle. Ask my guests, okay? It's all great and shiny and inspiring, okay? But if you ever tried, let me put it this way, sell a new solution, to large hospital organization, to large insurance company, explaining, bringing technology in and how painful this process is. Nicolas, can you give us some tips? Because professional listening to us, both business and technology, what will make those solutions be a little bit more relevant? Because again, people sometimes inventing them in the lab, unfortunately, and it just does not get the traction.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
I know, that's what
I see
for.
it everywhere, not only in healthcare. It's what we call the digital transformation projects, which actually is a change mindset, change management. It's we're on the road to technology. We can't go back, right? This road to technology started many years ago, and I'm talking about 100 years ago when electricity started, and electricity came from steam and all this, and so today you can't say suddenly, okay, well, I'm done. I don't want to use my smartphone anymore. I don't want to use my computer. I don't want to use AI. This is not possible. So gradually, and it's also a generational question, to be honest with you, because you see young doctors like my son, for example. Again, I'm sorry, I'm definitely proud of my son, but
you should be. You have all the rights here, Nicolas.
But he's 27, so he can give me his views on things. And he said very regularly, he's in critical care ward, and he said very regularly, in terms of imagery, the older radiologists don't want to use AI. And then I've been doing this for 35 years, 40 years. I know my stuff. But it's not knowing their stuff. It's basically what you know is like less than 2.5 millimeter growth, tumor less than 2.5 millimeter. Your eye cannot see it. Whereas AI can see it, because AI has been trained from millions and billions of data and pictures of seeing something that can be like really even less than a millimeter, like a micron in terms of size. So it's again, and these people in 2, 3, 5 years, they'll be retired. And I think the newer generation will make these changes. I agree with you. I've sold also software to hospitals, and it's really hard, even in Europe, when they have their own budget and everything, because healthcare is always an area where governments don't want to spend too much money on. Luckily, in Europe, we don't have to deal too much with insurance companies. At least they don't have their say in terms of what hospitals can buy or can't buy. But I know in the US, it's a big deal. So this is really hard, but you need to approach it not as a digital or AI revolution. You just need to approach it as a mindset management project. And if you take an angle, I see it, I'm not being naive. I know it's hard, but I'm just trying to find solutions here on how you do it. And so again, if you approach it and you say, this will save you X amount of money, and we can do tests so you can see it. I did that with diabetes management system, a company that I founded, and Irene, I think on Saugatalks, we talked about that. I founded a company back in 2017. I left the company and I left it to my associate. But we realized that it was more the approach to the hospitals and even the insurance company, because it was FDA approved, that made the difference, rather than approaching it saying, it's going to change your life and being, not concrete. You really need to explain, and it takes a long time, but I see it happening. Things are changing. That's my positive angle on it.
Jan, what's your take? I'm sure you've seen examples. You've been on the other side, on the clinical side, when excited, inspiring individuals bringing the new solution or promising the world, okay? What's the take out there? How can we help those solutions to be, the right ones, right? Of course, to be adapted and to be tried at least.
It's a great question, and I would echo what Nicolas said, and I'd refer back to Irene, what you said at the top of our podcast today, and that is that the U.S. healthcare system generally is fairly conservative and large, if you will. And I see AI as a solution, as well as other solutions being implemented in an iterative fashion. It's not going to be a light switch where one day you don't use it and the next day you use it. It will be phased in, if you will. And not only will that ensure that healthcare systems and hospitals have successful adoption, but also allow us to learn from that iterative approach to figure out where we need to go next. How do we make adjustments before it gets spread too far out? I do subscribe to what Nicolas said, which is it's partially generational. I agree. And it makes me think of the EMR, EHR implementation in the United States a long time ago. I even think of my father, who was a successful physician in the 70s and 80s. And I know that caused him some consternation and heartburn. And with time, that technology, however, got adopted because people that were being trained and early in their practice began to figure out how to use it and how to implement it in their practice. And so, like Nicolas said, it's not that you can set it aside. I think it's going to be incumbent upon organizations and individuals to adopt and use it. But again, I think approaching it in an iterative fashion instead of one big gulp, if you will be the key to success.
Nicolas, in conclusion, so what are your few takeaways, maybe?
Yeah, one major takeaway is don't be scared. Embrace technology. Understand where it comes from. Understand what the dangers could be, because the more you understand, the more you're going to be careful about it, and you can use it for your benefit as a physician and also for the patient's benefit. That's what John and I have been talking about since the beginning, is really, again, putting the patient at the center. And if you understand the technology, if you understand what it can bring to you and to the patient, then to me, that's the main takeaway, at least we've had in the last 30 minutes.
Beautiful. John, your closeout takeaways points, because they are extremely valuable, of course, coming from your experiences.
I would say, one, embrace the technology. This is not a technology that we're going to be able to set aside or put back. I like to say the genie's out of the bottle, if you will, but it's a good genie. And I think it's incumbent upon individuals and organizations to educate themselves on this technology. And all of us are going to need to stay on top of the technology, because it's changing so quickly, so rapidly. So it's not sort of one study, 1 week of study, 1 month, 1 year, but it'll be a constant evolution in the technology, and it certainly will have an impact. Don't expect to do everything automatically, if you will. I've talked to a number of CEOs and founders, and I've encouraged them to think about focusing on a specific problem, if you will, and designing the AI solution for that specific problem. I think there are people who maybe hope and at the same time worry that AI will be something to everyone, and it will happen again in one significant, large fashion, if you will, but it'll be used for specific problems we're having. We touched on some of them today. One of the other exciting ones for me, again, is the workflow optimization or streamlining of the process to really put physicians and providers in a position where they're happy again about what they're doing at bedside. They're taking care of patients. Some of those administrative tasks are falling to the side. And at the same time, the consequence of that is patients generally, I'd like to believe, are not only going to be happier, but have better outcomes, because we're now putting providers in a position where they can focus more attention on the patient instead of some of the day-to-day routine tasks that they're currently doing.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, so very much for your time. Thank you. Looking forward to reconnect with you later with more news and more exciting changes.